Okay, so hi everyone. I think we're just gonna get started. Sorry about that. I had a little bit of technical difficulties before, but thank you for joining us today. My name is Andy, and I will be your moderator. Today we will be reading from Billy Festerazzi's Freedom Man, and we're gonna do things a little bit differently from the last workshop. I decided to try out a pre-recording of the screenplay so that everyone can access it and we can avoid technical difficulties, which I will provide after I go over the guidelines quickly. Just a heads up, today's session will be recorded and published to other AFL platforms. So everyone, please keep your camera and audio off during the stream. So feel free to use the emoji reaction function on Zoom, and you're also welcome to use a chat if you want to make any immediate comments. Please respect these guidelines. If you end up disrupting the session in any way, I'm going to have to remove you from the call. I'm going to have a filler card streamed on the Zoom while we're watching the reading. It will show the link and everything, but I will also send it in the chat here for easier access. I will also provide some questions in the chat that you can think about while you listen onto this reading. Yeah, I wanted to do a live stream of the pre-recording, but my computer's really old, so it's not letting me use the OBS software to live stream anything, but I'll see if I can figure that out for the next event. But for now, we already have a pre-recorded video uploaded to YouTube, but I'm just gonna send out the link for everyone to watch. After the reading is over, I will begin the live workshop session here on Zoom, where you can give feedback and ask questions about the piece. Feel free to turn on your cameras and audio during this portion of the workshop. Before we start, Billy, do you have anything you want to mention about your work?
Hello.
Hello.
Cool, cool. Right, I'm just gonna start the video. Cool. Yeah. Firstly, I'd like to thank everyone for actually turning up. I think it says a lot that everyone's willing to help an aspiring writer out like myself. God knows that I probably need the help because I'd like to firstly mention how why I actually contacted this workshop in the first place. Um, I started writing this in November 2021. And then I sort of like finished the what I thought was the final draft in sort of about March 2022. But as it turns out, that definitely wasn't the final draft. So I sort of arrogantly sent this to a lot of festivals, and in some of these sort of smaller festivals, it did very, very well. However, in the sort of most prestigious festivals, it was sort of getting only finalist positions and sort of like third place. So what I did is I actually purchased a few script reviews, and um, in terms of the plot, storyline, and concept, it would get about 10 out of 10 or 9 out of 10. However, in terms of dialogue and character, it would be probably about a 6. So clearly there is something wrong with the script, and I have tried to basically look at it and nothing's actually going in. So I thought I'd basically contact a workshop and I'd rather have it acted out loud than actually be able to listen to it to see if I could try and figure out what is wrong. So during this workshop, I'll turn my camera off and I'll be making notes. I'd probably like to share what I find as well, and I have quite a few questions I'd like to ask.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that, Billy. I'm gonna now send the link in the chat. Can everyone see it? No, I'm also going to share the screen here, and yeah, feel free to access it and we'll start, and I'm gonna live stream it on my end. Um, yeah.
You're muted, Andy.
Sorry, thank you. I've been having so many technical problems today. I've been so out of it, but I don't know why it's private. It should have been uploaded already. It worked for my friends, so let me double check to see what's going on, and then I'll resend. See if that works. Sorry about that, guys. Thank you for being patient. Okay, I guess try the link now. Let me know if that works. I think you guys want me to decide. Okay, yeah, it should work right now. Does everyone? Okay, cool. I'm gonna reshare the screen. Sorry, guys. Thank you. Thanks for being patient. Okay, I feel like we should get started on the workshop. So the next 30 minutes, you guys have the option to provide feedback and comments for the writer. I'm first going to open up this workshop for the audience. If you guys have any questions you want to ask before I start asking questions myself.
I had one. What kind of experience have you had with defectors and refugees?
Hello. Um, well, I haven't actually had a personal experience with refugees or defectors. However, I did read Yomi Park's book In Order to Live, and I think it's absolutely ridiculous that something like the state of North Korea can actually exist, which is why I actually started writing this in the first place. Um, my intention is to raise awareness against the atrocities committed by North Korea. And I hope that if this was made into a film, it could inspire some sort of change. Um, because from Yeonmi Park's book, the reason why she said she became awakened and was released from the sort of indoctrination was because she watched the film Titanic. This is obviously very, very different to Titanic. I think it's a bit more obvious in its intention. So I do hope it can, if it was made into a film, it can inspire some sort of change. Although I think something like this would probably be banned in the North for obvious reasons. But if I was just to be able to change one person's mind, I'd say that I'd consider the film to be a success because I'd say that one human life is probably worth everything. So that's the reason why I wrote this. But from my own personal experience, it'll just be research I carried out.
Okay, thanks.
I guess I'm gonna add on to that. I was a little curious as to why you chose not to just explicitly say North Korea, just because like everyone kind of alludes to I mean, everything in it already alludes to the country. I feel like it's not really like a secret. And also just because like, the US was mentioned, so clearly like this is already set in like the real world, I guess. So yeah, I guess I wanted to know more about your choice to make it a fictional place because I feel like um it just doesn't really make sense if the rest of the world is already in the current world, like the current present world, and that it's like not a secret that we're talking about like North Korea, basically.
I know that there was actually a film made about North Korea and it actually got banned. I know it's more of a comedy, but that is something I'm worried about. It's something, yeah, I am worried about being censored. So if I was to write it from a fictional point of view, I'd say there's less of a chance of being censored, but I think it is still obvious in its intention. So yeah.
So also like are all like the names to also I know some of them are not Korean. Are you like just trying to like allude to it just by doing like Korean names or just like throwing in kind of like, random Eastern Europe?
And I'd say random. Yeah.
Okay. Do you feel like there would be more consistency if like I understand why you'd want to like not mention North Korea. I feel like the names of the characters then really matters for you to all be like Korean because then it would make sense as to like what we're talking about and then like there can be like no like allusion to North Korea in that way. It's just like a little like hint at it because obviously all the names are Korean. Um,
Mm.
but it makes a lot of sense why you wouldn't want to directly mention it because I'm sure a lot of people really like to censor like people like to censor things, especially in around that area. Um, but yeah, I definitely think that's something to take note of. Um, and I guess I want to learn a little bit more about Ayaka. Is that her name? Like what was your inspiration for her and like what I guess what were you trying to get out of her?
So she was supposed to show the dark sides of indoctrination and brainwashing. However, I could see from the actual script reading that I definitely need to rewrite the character. Um, she's a bit too stiff, she's a bit too unemotional, and the only sort of emotion she feels is just anger. So I think I definitely need to rewrite her because stiff dialogue and just plain indoctrination doesn't really make for entertaining cinema. So the whole inspiration, it was just to show the effects of brainwashing and indoctrination. But I think that does need to change. I think there needs to be more emotion in Ayaka particularly, but a lot of the characters as well.
Yeah, I really liked the way Ayaka was portrayed. I guess I was just more, maybe it was just the way it was delivered, but when I also read it too, I kind of infantilized Ayaka. I feel like the dialogue wasn't that stiff. It was more that she just came off as very childlike. And I feel like in that sense, it makes it a little like, you know, stereotypical in a way because, you know, it's this idea that Asian women are really childlike and like really submissive and stuff like that. I feel like there needs to be more development with Ayaka. Um, that's just my personal opinion. I mean, obviously other people probably read it differently, but I also read, when I read your script, I also read Ayaka in kind of like a kid's voice almost. She was very like too excited about um the regime. And rather
Mm.
than being like, oh, I like just, you know, like if you're actually like brainwashed, I feel like it would be, you know, a little more like just you wouldn't be so excited. You would just kind of like say it. It's like a fact, right? I don't know. She
Mm.
just seems way too overly excited, basically, for
Yeah.
someone to be legitimately brainwashed. I know we're talking for a little bit, so does anyone else have any questions, comments?
Yeah. I'll add to the not making this about North Korea thing, but everything else is pretty Korean to include constantly referring to the South and the North. Um, Either one, you make it totally about North Korea, or my recommendation, anyways, either totally make it about North Korea or totally abstract it out. Make it not Korean, make it not even Asian, East Asian. Um, Flip North and South or go East West. I mean, the audience is smart enough to know, like, oh, you say you drop one great leader, that's all you need. We know it's about Korea if you drop one great leader. Everything else is like, or maybe you can change that as well. Great something else. The God Emperor, if you're into that D&D thing or whatever, right? The God King. Totally abstract it. Uh, that may be like more artistically interesting. So that's one. Um, I think my hypothesis of why you struggle with this is that uh, the, there's a journey of Jin, the main character, right? Did I hear that properly? There's a journey, and I don't really the dialogue. What I don't really feel that he's earned any of this change. He has cancer. He told, "Hey, you should watch this film. It'll change your mind." Next thing we know, he changed his mind. Like, where did that come from? What was his angst through it? And then we move quickly to, well, okay, he changed his mind. He got into a fight with his partner. There's a, uh, and then we end up in the South already. We already defected. So like the big, the stories we're telling were cut out. How did he change? How did he defect? His learning about these new things. Um, I think you can cut out a lot of dialogue if you turn from that exposition into like showing. You have cancer. Well, yeah, he knows
Yeah.
he has something, right? He might not even know what cancer is. He might not even know what the word privilege is. I mean, when you're like in that information bubble, there's a lot of concepts you don't understand. Not knowing what asking for a map, for example. If I were to help better explain this, like a lot of these characters speak as if they grew up in the West.
Mm. Yeah.
Uh, so it's a big shift. You're like, all right, to ask yourself, what would they actually know? They would know about a map. They would know like, oh, USA is great enemy though. That's I think that's pretty clear. But they wouldn't know the map, and there I could have swore I saw something sneak out of North Korea where their map put the peninsula like really large and everything else is really small. So yeah, they would know what to ask for a map. If you wanted to, more specifically now, if you wanted to get show a map, maybe you can have Jin ask, "Where am I?" And then whoever is talking to him can show him like, "You're here. You were over there," and he wouldn't understand what the hell this is. Like, this is not a map.
Yeah, what I got from that was that I think I needed to do more research and not write from my own point of view. That's the sort of thing I got from that. So thank you.
Yeah, appreciate your openness hearing that. Really, I wouldn't feel good hearing that.
That was a really great comment, Tony. I actually wanted to hop on that a little bit. So I also kind of agree where it's a little confusing as to where like Jin got all this information. Like why, how does he the one that's like not being brainwashed if it's not kind of like he clearly has some access or like open point to the outside world if he's one of the people who like, is kind of rebelling and stuff. So I guess like maybe like portraying like how he gets those information would really help kind of solidify why Jin kind of stands out from the rest. Um, but yeah, but definitely doing something about definitely convey something about how Jin got information from the outside world and how he like can navigate it better, but also in some ways he also doesn't. So you need to like kind of play with that a little bit.
Yeah.
Something that may help you is that like I think the core conflict is he has a way of thinking. He sees something that really challenges it. Conflict, right?
Yeah.
And then later on, the actual facts of like how the North is different from the South is kind of like I think that could probably be deprioritized, and things would fall in place if the focus was on his revelation and his change and his coming to terms with like, well, I'm starting to believe something that Ayaka doesn't believe. There's another conflict, internal conflict, and then conflict with her as well. And I think that is the heart of the story.
Yeah, I also think it would be really interesting to see like more conflict with Ayaka. I feel like, maybe she should start to kind of realize that she's being brainwashed and whatnot. I feel like that would be really nice to see some character development there.
Yeah.
Just so that way it's not just Jin and his journey, but it's more of like a collective journey. So I
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah, that's what I sort of got from actually watching the YouTube video. I've sort of got the impression that Ayaka backs down too much. There definitely needs to be more conflict there. I also thought that the most climactic scene in it when Ayaka obviously starts trying to stab Jin, I think it goes from 0 to 100 pretty quickly. I think there needs to be a few more attempts to sort of convince Ayaka that she is being brainwashed, and then that's what actually leads her to get to 100. It goes 0 to 100 very, very quickly. Obviously, there is a lot of things. Obviously, this was only part of the script. This was just the excerpt. Um, there were a lot of things in the other parts of the script, which I think I could introduce into that scene. There is one part where he does find a propaganda poster in the mud, and I think that could be maybe something which Jin actually shows during the most climactic scene, which sort of makes it go from 0 to 100 very quickly. It just felt like that scene. It just felt too rushed. And not only that, but I think, especially in the food delivery scene, I think there's oh, what was that? Sorry, I lost my train of thought. She needs to fight back because having her completely indoctrinated, it doesn't seem very entertaining. And the parts of the script reading which I enjoyed the most happen to be where there happen to be more monologues and more emotion. So I'd say if I portrayed a Yaka with a wider range of emotion, I'd say that'd be more entertaining. So that's sort of what I got from this script reading. Because I placed a lot of character development into Jin. Obviously, there is a lot which you guys didn't see, but I still think that what you guys have said is still applies 100%. So,
another this will probably shake out as you flesh her out. Is if Jin's progression is a little more metered out as he processes his shift in worldview, she could express concern initially for his safety, because if he starts thinking like this, then he is a danger to himself. And because she loves him, that could be one emotion. Then it shifts to like, oh, I can't save you. You've gone too far, Jin. Now it turns to rage. That logically makes sense to me. If someone you dearly love started expressing very different worldview, what would you do initially? Given in this situation, right? You're like, you would try to talk him out of it, and then you're like, oh no, this is very dangerous for you to say. Don't say anymore. You can still maybe think about it. Depends on how, if you're avoiding or not. Like you can still think about these things, but don't talk about it because our neighbors can hear. Things like that. And finally, like, oh, I can't save you now. You're on. Or I can't save you now. I'm angry. I want to attack you, or I'll abandon you, or whatever. But I think because the default relationships that they love each other, they think the same. Your partner's thinking very differently now. Okay, what do I do about it?
I think you touched on some stuff at the end about whether or not they believed it the entire time, right? And I guess my big thing when I was looking at it is, what is the difference between Jin and Jiyoung, right? I mean, fundamentally, at the core of as a human being, are they any different? Right? Do we not know when something is wrong? Are people that far? I mean, to me, that explained, because it's like I was also trying to fill in a bunch of gaps, obviously, because it was just excerpt.
Yeah.
But of, how did he get there? How did we get to and so in my mind, I'm still trying to put that together. And so for me, it's like making them, they're the same person. That things are wrong. That you see it in the writing and in his discussion of this, of pulling away the fantasy, right? That's the brainwashing, right? It's like kind of matrixy, right? It's like there's this whole wool over your eyes, the whole world that's around you. You're brainwashed into this, but there's something wrong. Everybody, that's what makes her mad. It's like, what makes you mad is when you're wrong and you want to be right. That's what makes you want to kill something. That's what makes you want to destroy something, to me, right? And that's my 2 cents on at least why characters for me are doing stuff, because that's the biggest question whenever I'm reading something or watching something. It's like, why did they do that? Because if you answer the why, it doesn't matter where, it doesn't matter when, that none of that matters, because we are all the same. So even though we're looking at this as we're looking at it as North Korea or whatever, abstracting it out, but is it really about that? I mean, it's about subjugation. It's about, that happens everywhere. That happens across the street. That happens at my neighbor's house. Not really, but what I'm saying, it happens. People are feel trapped. So it's a bigger story. And if you want to raise awareness of that story, it almost has to not be about North Korea. right? Because it's like, what do we know about that? That's foreign to the audience, right? It's like, I don't know what that is, but you know what I do know? What it feels like to have a partner who I loved, who's now a Trump supporter for some reason, or now a Biden supporter, whatever, whatever it is, because it's like we're so divided. I think you have much larger story here than just North Korea. This is a human story, right? To me, right? So there's my 2 cents. I listened for a little while and I talk a bunch. Hopefully that's helpful.
Yes, I think what you're trying to say is more needs to be explored. It isn't just the whole side of North and South Korea. I think you're saying about a lot more needs to be explored. What I got from that is especially the relationship between characters. I think that's something which there needs to be emphasis on, and I think it needs to be something which relates to the audience itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think my suggestion based off I totally agree, Jason, is that when you turn back and write this, I understand that you want to tell a big message, a big picture. And I think one of the most effective ways to tell a big message is to focus on just the characters and their journey, and the audience will figure out the message. Really focus on the characters, and have the political message just be really secondary.
Yeah, that's very, very good advice. Yeah, so I definitely need to make the characters more interesting in order for them to stand out. As I said, from listening to the actual script reading, I could tell that the dialogue was stiffening. It was too unemotional. And if you don't have decent characters, then the audience aren't going to remember the message. So is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah. If you focus on their journey and the reasons why they say things and how they feel, like flesh out a character study of like, all right, where did this person come from? How they meet? What are their core beliefs? And then the dialogue will come out, and it would be more. It'll sound more authentic. Like, what did I write? That was a good example. No, I think that's I don't have a great example. Jason's analogy with the Matrix was great. Yeah, both sides think they're brainwashed, so you're gonna fight passionately for what you believe in.
And in the end, nobody's right, really. It's all the same. It's the physical environment that we can control here, right? That's it. It's like what's inside of our heads. We can change that. In fact, hopefully that's what we're trying to do with film, right? Is we're trying to change the inside of people's heads. It's like the physical environment that's the entertainment part, right? It's like, oh, it's an interesting thing. It's a conflict. It's war. It's, a modern parable. And to me, as half Korean, it's like I'd like you to make it about Korea, right? You know how I tried to do a parody, a comedy when The Interview came out, and trying to get Koreans involved in anything that has to do with Korea is impossible, especially a comedy about North Korea. It's like, forget about it. But try to get a South Korean to play a North Korean. It's like, there's just, yeah, anything that I can do, honestly, to bring more awareness to the peninsula itself, because, hey, we're still at war, guys. It's like one of the longest wars the United States have ever been. It's like everyone, oh, the Korean War, it's not over. We're still there 62 years later.
So
I've actually been to North Korea. There's a gift shop across the DMZ. It's a gift shop across the DMV.
Right.
Yeah.
Got to keep up appearances.
Yeah. I got jade soju cups. I'm like, okay, supported their regime. Fine.
Well, okay, Billy, what most interested you about telling, this story? Because it's like, again, this is a pretty generic story. I mean, the struggle around the world. Why this one?
Well, I think it's the worst place to live in the entire world. And I think um, I don't think there's enough awareness about it. If you asked 99% of the population to point out North Korea on a map, they wouldn't be able to. Yeah, there's not enough awareness about it. It's ridiculous that obviously I said that something like this could actually happen, but it is. And nobody has really written a film about this before. They've written comedies, but nothing as sort of severe as this. So I'm hoping that this could be some sort of change. So there's a couple of things I like to say. Obviously, I wanted to write it from a fictional point of view. What I'm sort of getting is that everybody wants me to make it predominantly about North Korea. Is that what everyone's trying to say?
Not necessarily. It either do or don't, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, all the way in or all the way out. Make it a parable fantasy land, or actually make it about Korea. One of the,
Yeah, if your film gets banned, then all the better.
Oh, okay.
No, yeah, I definitely agree with everyone else. I feel like it's either you just straight up talk about North Korea, or at least like allude to everything about it, or just make it completely different, like abstract. I feel like that would just make more sense, just because I feel like the combination of like different cultures could come off kind of, it could be kind of controversial to some people, just because it's like you're kind of meshing just like all these different cultures in that area, like East Asia, just because you don't want to explicitly say that it's like North Korea, South Korea. But I understand the intent behind it, but that's definitely something to consider when writing the script, because it could come off offensive if not done right. That like all these cultures are kind of just like mixed in together as this one general, like generic Fighting or North Fighting and South Fighting culture. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that is definitely something to have a think about. I'll come to that decision another time, I think. I'm sort of leaning towards all. So write it entirely based on North Korea. No fictional countries or anything like that. Obviously the plot and the characters, their journey will stay the same. But I think different location, obviously actually make the location, the actual place and that sort of thing. That's what I'm more leaning towards from what everyone said. And the point about it being censored, all the better. I think that's a very, very good point. So I think it just proves, I think it just proves my point perfectly as to why I want to write this anyway. So
yeah, I also think you're like keeping the journeys of everyone the same is great. I definitely just think I know I already said this before, but like I really think Ayako could be like a really great supporting character for Jin. So I really feel like just like having her character development and having her struggles depicted in relation to Jin and in relation to North Fight would just make the story like a little more, I guess, I don't want to say complex, but like, it'll make it more compelling.
Yeah. So as I could tell from the script reading, and now that I think about looking at the actual script altogether, I think I placed too much emphasis on character development only on Jin. Whereas I think not enough has gone into Gion and Ayaka. Obviously, Yumi wasn't actually mentioned in the excerpt. So that is something to think about. I think I need to think of more character development in between all four of the main characters. So that is something I'm getting from this. And obviously, when you focus on character development and character backgrounds, scene objectives is something I think I need to focus on as well, and motivations. I think that will start to show in the dialogue, which is obviously what the reviews were saying. It was plot and concept sort of 9 out of 10, but dialogue and characters 6 out of 10. So that's what I'm sort of getting. I think I need to place more development into all characters instead of just one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something
also,
that
oh, sorry. I
sorry,
was
go
going to say, we're running out of time, but anyone have any last thoughts? Clearly, Tony, you have some last thoughts, so I guess I'll let you.
Yeah, it was the last thought now. As you look back at this, it may I was thinking, like, if I were to do this, I would like not like lop off the part after he escapes, he defects, and just focus on what he does in North Korea, and the end scene will be him abandoning his life and going into the unknown of defecting. Because that way the entire movie could be just about, this is what it's like North Korea, because the Western audience would know what it's like in the West. We don't need to be told what it's like in the West. And so we just compared our lived-in experience with how these characters of North Korea live. And so that is the message that they can save you. One, it'll make it easier to make. Maybe you don't have to film an escape scene. But yeah, I think that could be tighter. That could be a way to tighten the whole script.
Thank you, Tony. Anyone else?
Yeah, I think you have all the elements are all there. I just don't think that maybe that they're played out in the right order. Again, you know, they've lost a baby. She's obviously, it's like you're mentally distraught on top of being brainwashed, on top of all these kinds of things. If we would introduce that before, if we had that before, that might explain her childlike behavior better. So I'm just saying, don't abandon what you have and rewrite particularly, but use what's already there, because I think it's good.
Yeah.
I think it can just be introduced in a different way.
Yeah, you definitely have a lot of material to work with. So I really definitely think that this story could really become something. But yeah, thank you guys for joining me. Sorry again for this morning. I was a little scatterbrained. For some reason, 2 links were sent out, but it was this one that was actually the right one. So I was just on a different Zoom, and yeah. So thank you for being patient with me. And if you guys have any more comments for Billy, you guys can email them to me, and I can just forward it to him. But yeah, if anyone also wants to participate in a workshop, just submit your script to me at andy@film-lab.org. So thank you guys.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.